And I was like, oh, what have I signed up for? Okay, am I going to be able to track every day and like do all these things?
Welcome to another episode of Truth Talks. Today we have a very special guest, Elektra, one of our clients. So this is a special client interview episode. And Elektra, first things first, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Paris?
Pretty solid, pretty solid. Before we get into everything else, I want to say I've known Elektra for a very, very long time. I want to say since how old do you think I was when you first met me?
7, 8?
Probably somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So it's been a very long time. One of Courtney's best childhood friends, and also a good friend of mine as well. And we've also had the pleasure of doing some cool fitness and nutrition stuff together as well, which we'll hop into. But Alextra, tell us a little bit about, before we hop into that, tell us a little bit about kind of growing up and your athletic kind of endeavors. I know you played some tennis and maybe did some other things. So just walk us through kind of that chapter of your life.
Yeah. Well, my athletic endeavors, I never really found something that I liked that much as a kid. Like sports didn't really, like, it didn't go well with me. I tried like dance, that didn't really go well. And then I fell more into music, but I think my parents still wanted me to have some kind of a sports of some kind, but I don't know. Like I tried basketball, that didn't work. I tried volleyball, meh. But tennis is what really stuck with me. So around like age 10, I started doing tennis lessons, and then I just loved it. I loved it so much, and so that's really something that I've been able to keep going with every summer, whenever the weather gets better. So even into adulthood, that's the only sport that I really like. A bit of volleyball, I guess. As an adult, I've done some like rec adult leagues, but it's my skill level is not very good there. It's just for fun. But with tennis, I have a little bit of skill.
Like, so that was kind of the way. And then you found some kind of was it circuit training or training through an app at some point later, like in your adult kind of years?
I want to say I started with like step classes in like maybe the end of high school, and I really liked that. And then when I went to UTM, I started like going to the gym with some friends, but it was very like sporadic. And then, yeah, I like through apps, I guess, like that were already planned for you. So just like those kind of apps is really what helped me get into like training. But I would say actually COVID is when that really got big because we were home the whole time. So then those apps are all that you could really do. And like people that did online fitness classes is when I got more into it. Yeah.
I like it. That's awesome. And I guess I want to kind of dive into a little bit of like your why. And you've made a lot of awesome progress, and we've done some pretty cool things so far. But I want to dive into like what was that click to want to kind of take things to the next level instead of just kind of being casual with things, being a little bit more calculated and specific with not only your fitness but also kind of your nutrition. So was there a specific moment, or was there a specific like mindset shift that happened?
It's going to sound kind of cheesy, but it's actually you guys, like you and Courtney really gave me that push. Like just watching you grow into, your adulthood and like your business and everything. Like I've always just been so proud of you and supported you on like the sidelines. And I've wanted to always kind of be part of it. And then was like, nah, I don't think I can do this. And then this past summer when we were at the summer shredding, like I came to watch with you guys and we just had like a big conversation afterwards. And you and Courtney were talking about the 90 days coming up. And I thought, I've always wanted to do that. And I said it out loud as opposed to just in my head. And you both were like, no, you should do it. Like, you'd be so good for it. And I was like, I don't know. Will I? And then, I don't know. You convinced me.
You're too nice. I just as a side note, Alexa's like the nicest person you ever meet in your life. Just as a reference point. Yeah, I think that was nice that you drove us. I think you drove us home from summer shredding, which was awesome. So even the fact that you came out to that show was freaking cool, and that means a lot that you were kind of able to see, because that was awesome. Also, like a very massive day in our kind of for our client community and for our team, which you're now part of as well, and also on a personal note to kind of see the impact of that event. So the fact that you were there with that is like super cool, and then that translated into, obviously you joined our 90 Days of Truth program first. Talk to us a little bit about maybe any fears that you had kind of going to that. I know you might have mentioned, hey, can I really do this? Like what was kind of any beliefs that were kind of holding you back from like taking initial action?
Well, I guess in the past I was doing like just like apps that had like maybe like a 6-week program or an 8-week program. And then I would just kind of go and flip flop from like, okay, one ended. Well, then what do I do now? And I didn't really have a lot of direction. And so then when this started, I was like, okay, well, this is going to have a lot of direction. And I can't just say, okay, well, this week I should do 4 workouts or whatever the number was. And I just can skip it because, things are busy in life. And especially during the school year, I would say based on my past behavior, you just like make excuses for yourself. Like, this was a busy week of report cards, so I'm just not going to do it. And nutrition was also a big fear of mine, I guess, going into it, because I've never really had to do the things that are required for like really locking in. So like after our first meeting and you were like, you have to download this app and you have to do this. And I was like, oh, what have I signed up for? Okay, am I going to be able to track every day and like do all these things? So those were some of my fears going into it. It's just like that tracking aspect of it. And that I was nervous about that. And like letting you down in a sense if I like mess something up. And like, I don't think that I did. And I know that you're not like that, but just in your head, you have someone to be accountable to. So now you can't just take a day off because you're like, whatever. Like, I don't know. That was, I guess, a big fear and just like the unknown of it all.
That's totally warranted, and I think a lot of people can kind of relate to that. And also, why a lot of people never actually take action is just fear of unknown. And there's this great saying that says you can either sit in the pain of where you're at right now, pain, or the pain of change, or the pain of trying something new and opening yourself up to being vulnerable to potentially failing. But in reality, like you never end up failing. And I have that favorite saying that I blast all over the place, which is if you don't start, you're choosing failure, because the only way to guarantee failure is by taking no action. If you take even some action, you're already going to be better off than you're at right now. The worst case scenario is that you stay exactly where you're at right now. But by not starting, you've essentially chosen to fail. So it's interesting. Okay, then I want to hear I'm actually curious about this. The expectations that you had kind of going into, one-on-one coaching and the 90 days compared to how it actually was. What was kind of the things that were the same? You like, okay, I expected it to be like this and it was. And then what were the things that were different? I'm curious for this one.
That's a really good question. My expectations going into it, I don't really know that I didn't really have an idea of what it was going to be like. Okay, actually, no, I have something. So the idea, I think that also kind of scared me going into it was that I knew there was like an online component of like, there's a group chat and there's this, and I'm going, how am I going to keep up with like the workouts and the tracking, and then also like talking to people every day about stuff like that actually really overwhelmed me, which seems like a little thing, but I don't know. It's like another thing to check in the rest of your day. And it surprised me a lot that it wasn't like a big thing at all. It wasn't like you had to check in every day, but it was really awesome to, how you read other people's check-ins and that really motivated you. If they were like, hey, I had a really good day today. Like, that's actually really awesome. Or we shared a lot of recipes and stuff and ideas. And like when you're struggling with how do I get my protein? Because that was really hard at the beginning. But other people put ideas in there and it was like just so awesome. And then you actually meet them in person, which made it even better because now you have a connection to these people. It's not just like a face on a screen. And so it made you definitely more motivated for that. In terms of like the coaching part with like you, I kind of knew upfront that it was going to be like a weekly video, and it surprised me how much I enjoyed it. Like at first I'm like, I can't talk to myself on a phone and send you a video for however long. Like this is going to be the shortest video ever. But some weeks you're surprised at how long you talk for, or like just even enjoying like the conversation that we have back and forth over a video. I don't know. I really come to look forward to my Wednesday video that I get back from you.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. And I think it also is a chance for when you do your check-in, it's a chance for you to reflect. It's just as much for me to gather data, we'll call it, and have that kind of accountability checkpoint in the same way as it is for you to also have your own reflection. It's a kind of like a way of active journaling in some aspects, right? And it causes you to reflect. Would you agree with that?
I do. And I feel like sometimes I am surprised by the things that you pick up on when you're just like rambling. And like, I know you are recalling something, like you're taking notes and you're like mentioned something. I'm like, oh, I guess I did say that. And he really caught on to that little thing. So I know that always surprises me.
That's cool. That's cool. And you've come a very long way, and I think you've done a really really good job. Have you impressed yourself with your adherence?
Yes, actually, that's kind of hard to say, but I do think so because I mean, knock on wood, I've been pretty lucky that I haven't gotten sick or anything. So I think that would be a pretty good excuse to just take a break, but I haven't gotten sick, luckily. So I think throughout this time, like I've had a realistic goal, like our 3 workouts a week that has been very manageable. So even in like the tougher weeks, I think those are the ones that impressed me. Like at the beginning, I was like 3 workouts that, anyone could do that. But I think there's been, just harder weeks and things are busy and there's other deadlines that in your life that aren't just the Wednesday check-in deadline. So that's been really good. I think the nutrition side of things, maybe I'm not as impressed with, but I would say from the beginning till now, I've come a long way. And even just making choices and just understanding what you're eating, and just, there's a pretty high protein goal. And I would have never thought about that before in my life. And so the fact that I can mostly get to that goal, not every day, that's always the goal. And there's always something to strive towards, which I never had before, has been pretty cool.
Absolutely. So would you say your initial fears of like, oh, how can I do this? Like you've kind of squashed those by seeing like it's not maybe as, you know, complicated as I thought it was going to be?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely a lot more manageable than I thought. And I feel like, whereas before it was a lot of fear, now it's more like I'm looking forward to like, okay, well, what's like the next step? And like when I have more time, when it comes like summertime, how can we like adjust this to like, I don't know, you start thinking about how things can change and evolve, as opposed to just this is how it is and it's going to stay this way forever. Like I wouldn't have thought of myself future thinking like that.
That's cool. It's like different phases, and also because you're so busy, like Electra's a teacher, and then she also does volunteering, and she was coaching volleyball, and she has a partner and a family, and et cetera, et cetera. You have all these moving parts, and you have to find a way to organize your weeks to make all of them fit like a puzzle. And some weeks you're going to have more puzzle pieces to manage, and some weeks you're going to have less, but it's still this puzzle every week of kind of having to think about it and plan ahead. So I think we've had to be kind of very strategic with creating systems to help navigate that, especially from a time perspective, but also from like a nutrition perspective. And sometimes things happen on the fly, and like, okay, how do we operate when things change on the fly? Okay, we're going to Toronto with my partner. All of a sudden, like, okay, what are we gonna do here?
Yeah.
So yeah, nothing gets past me, Elektra. I'm like, it's all stored in the memory bank.
Yes, it definitely is.
But yeah, that's super cool. And walk us through kind of what do you think the biggest changes you've seen in yourself from like an internal perspective, in terms of how you feel or your perspective or mindset shifts, and then also from like more body composition perspective.
Okay. I think confidence wise, we've kind of talked about this before in a check in, but I guess I started off with like home workouts, and then I moved into like going to the gym at school. And then even like when I can't, like going to the gym, like Good Life, which I haven't done in a long time. I definitely was originally nervous to do that because like at home is like it's a safe space, and you go out and like with other people there, or just a new equipment that you don't have. I don't have equipment at home, and so that I feel like I've become a lot more confident in like knowing how to use the equipment in general, knowing how to set up a bench or set up the plates or anything that I'm without having that experience, and just like a specific plan. Like you have given me such an awesome workout plan, and I know what to expect now. And now I know how to, I don't know, like feel more confident when I'm at the gym. So now it doesn't have to just be at the school gym. I can actually go to the Good Life and not feel like I don't know what I'm doing and I should just turn around and go home. Like, I can, like it just really translates into, I guess, that aspect of things. I feel like there's probably more things internally that have helped it, but I would say confidence overall has been great. And even just like knowledge about certain muscle groups or certain food items, or just in general, I feel like that has been super helpful. And I always think about how you said to me, one day you're going to be able to look at a plate and you'll just know the macros, which I'm not there yet. Like one day is still coming. But with all your like scanning and stuff with the app, I'm like, okay, maybe one day.
That's funny.
And in terms of body composition, I don't know. I feel like you're a lot harder on yourself than anything. And so I don't know that I've really overall like noticed things like that, like little by little. But I mean, I have heard it from like you, and my sister has mentioned something. So I guess that's where I'm feeling more confident that like the work that we're doing, there is something coming out of it. Even if maybe I don't notice because I see myself every day, that's huge. Like I didn't have like a specific goal in mind. I just like want to feel stronger and like have a
Mhm.
purpose when I'm at the gym.
You've definitely come a long way in terms of like your gym confidence, and we'll touch on kind of both the body comp and the internal stuff. I think a lot of people struggle with that at the beginning of like going to the gym. Like, is everybody watching me, or what if I don't know how to set up the bench, and like little things like that. As somebody, we kind of forget that when we're further along in our fitness journey, that's where we all started. And just kind of once you get over that hump, and we've, as you said, we start with just home workouts, and now you're crushing at the gym and doing heavy barbell squats. It's like there's a progression there, and you're not going to start day one doing that, but you need to just say, this is what I'm doing. I'm just going to kind of commit to that. And it's a process just like any skill development. And then from the body comp perspective, I hear that a lot, especially for people that are tougher on themselves. And you do see yourself every day, so you get kind of um, blind to the changes that do happen. It's kind of like if I had a piece of clay and every day I just poked it a little bit and moved it, I wouldn't notice any difference if like over one day to day. But then when you really zoom out over months, like the clay would be a completely different shape. It's kind of like how we see ourselves, and especially even we take our progress pics in very transparent context, which is great for me because I can see changes, but it's not like the most flattering for the client to look at. So that's why I always advertise also taking more professional, like we did with the 90 days and the finale photo shoot that we did, like those kind of photos too, so you can kind of see your progress. And like it would be illogical. You got to think of it like this. Okay, if I see the changes, obviously your sister knows the changes, but also like we've lost around 12 pounds of body fat, probably somewhere in that range, and have been lifting. So it would be very illogical for the body not to look different. If you think about it from that perspective, you're a math teacher, so you know numbers, right?
Yes, yes.
So you could say that's a certain percentage of your body weight that you've lost in body fat.
I guess that was like, that was the whole purpose of it. So
Yeah, yeah, and just kind of breaking up into different phases, which is really cool. Okay, so we talked a little bit about that. What there's some people that might have started in your situation previously where maybe they dabbled a little bit into some fitness stuff, but nothing really specific, personalized, and never like took that step to like really commit to that. What would you say to them if they're experiencing maybe some of that fear that you started?
I would tell someone that you need a support system. I think that would be the number one thing to take out of it. Like if you're like, yeah, you're like dabbling and you're like, you don't really have a plan and you just need someone to be accountable to. Like, honestly, like from this experience, I would say getting a coach is huge, even if I'm not trying to train to be like an athlete or something. And like, cause that's what I think in the past I would have thought like your coach is for someone who like you want to do bodybuilding or you're training for a certain thing, but anyone can have a coach and it's still helpful just to have someone to take the thinking away from you for all the other things. Like I think that is a big barrier for me. And I'm sure a lot of people is like you plan your life all day long and then you also have to plan what you do at the gym and what you eat and everything. So to have someone remove part of those decisions from you and then to hold you accountable to them is so helpful. It's so huge, like more than you think that it would be. It really has made such a big difference.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm happy to hear that. It's that decision fatigue, I call it,
Yes.
and that's one of the reasons why I still have a coach because I do all day is make decisions for other people, and like it's nice to just be like, all right, you follow this. I'm like, great, let me do it and check back in. So I think that's a really good point, Elektra. And then I might have kind of touched on this before, but I'm going to ask you again more bluntly. What's the biggest thing that's surprised you throughout this process?
That's a really tough question, Paris. I think that the fact that it just like it's been from September until February now, like, and it's just like we're still going. I guess that has been my biggest surprise is that I didn't really I don't know what to expect going into it in September. I kind of was like, okay, you guys said I could do this, so I'm gonna do it. And then at the end of the 90 days, and we had our photo shoot and everything, and it was like, okay, now what are the next steps? Because like I didn't have to continue. I could have said, I got what I wanted out of it, and then go back to do my own thing, but I really wanted to keep our momentum that we had going. And I think just the fact that we're still doing it, we're still here and making progress and like still checking off those boxes has been the most surprising. Because if you had asked me like a year ago if I would still be doing something like this, I probably would have been like, no. So I think that's definitely made a big difference. Yeah, just I also just really love this is not a surprise, but I do love that I get to see you once a week. That's probably more than I've seen you in the last several years, like other than like Instagram and things like that, and just like text here and there. But being able to like see your face and have a conversation and like I really value your opinions, so having that once a week has been awesome.
Thanks, Alexa. Again, too nice. Thanks. No, it is really cool because it is kind of like a conversation. That's why a lot of coaches do like email check-ins, but I don't think you have the same depth of communication and quality and rapport building that you do with video. And that's why we've kept video. I think that what I kind of just heard from you is like you well, I'll take it and I'll spin it and say, you've now created a track record of confidence that you've built through consistency. And I'm hoping that you can now apply that to other areas of life and say, hey, look what I did in this context and look what principles I've applied and look how consistent I've been for such a long period of time with all these lifestyle variables being tweaked on me constantly. What else can I do like this? And I'm hoping that's kind of the mindset shift. And yeah, we can build confidence in the gym, but I'm hoping that life confidence is also built through the venture of fitness and proving to yourself that you can create a track record of like successful action.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think it totally, whether I've realized it or not, has translated into my work self and my home self, and just like, even just confidence in approaching conversations with people, or, yeah, just in that sense, like, yeah, whether you realize it or not, it is like bleeding into the other areas of your life.
Love it. I'm gonna ask you maybe a couple more tough questions, so we'll
Okay.
see. Given your kind of role at work, I would say like being somebody who's busy. I know we're jumping all over the place, but being somebody who's busy, what are some strategies that you've used time management wise or planning wise that have helped you be able to stay consistent?
Well, with my like life at work, I would say things change all the time. And I think for me, I'm also like a very go with the flow person. And sometimes that can be really difficult when you're just like, so like, yeah, like just whatever, just roll with it. It can be really helpful. Like if something goes wrong and you're like, well, no, I said I was going to go to the gym today and now I can't. You don't, like, you just have to rearrange it, I guess. So I wouldn't say I had planned it like to the T. Like I don't really do that, but I would say like on Sunday when I'm thinking about like what do I want to eat for the week? What do I need to grocery shop for? I'll also think what are my days this week that I want to try to hit the gym, because I know I have tutoring on this day after work, or I have this, dinner with my family one day. So I have to figure out where can I make that fit in. But then after that, like that's just like a general plan. If something comes up, like then you just rearrange it and you have to figure it out from there. So I don't have like a really like a time schedule, but like I have a general idea of like this is what I think my week is gonna look like, and hope for the best that it sticks. But it doesn't
Yeah.
always, and that's okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a scheduled Tetris, almost like the puzzle piece I've said before. But I think if you go in with that mindset of like, hey, I have a rough idea of the structure, but I know things are probably going to have to change, and I'm okay with that, because a lot of people when they set structure and then it's not 100% as they planned, they freak out, and then all of a sudden it goes from 100 to 0 on the adherence. And I think you're very good at finding like that 80% plus, and that's where I always tell people to land. It's like don't go for 100 or 0. If you can be 80% or more for a stupidly long period of time, you will outpace everybody that's trying to be 100%. So it's just being okay with that and realizing like we are humans with a lot of different responsibilities, and that means that there's going to be some juggling and things are not going to be perfect. We're not robots. We don't live in a laboratory setting. We live in an environment with many variables all interacting with each other. So it's just kind of giving yourself some grace when you need to, but also being firm with yourself when you need to as well.
Yeah. I think I've had some weeks where I'm like, this week didn't go as well as I wanted. Now I'm going up to my check-in with pairs and these like nothing's aligning like how I wanted it to. And then, but you're right, you have to give yourself some grace. And I think you're good at that too. Like if I'm being too hard on myself, or maybe the right amount of hard on myself, but still, I think you're good at um, reminding me of that, 80%, et cetera, and just like pushing forward. And you know what? You start over again next week. So
Yeah. I try to find that balance of like, whatever you tell me the standard is for you, I'll keep you to that standard. And if you're being too tough on yourself, I'll be like, don't worry, Lecture, like our standard's here, you're good. Or if we fall behind, it's like, hey, listen, this is our standard, let's raise it up, right? So it's just like, I won't put my own expectation on what I think you should do. It's you tell me what standard to set, and then we kind of go from there, right? Which I think is pretty cool. I'm going to end it off with one more tough question before I allow you to kind of, I'll open up the floor if you want to share anything else. One truth that you found in this process so far? We want to start asking people like, and you can interpret that however you want, but we want to ask one consistent question now in our client interviews. What's one truth that you found in this process?
that's a question I wish I had ahead of time. One truth that I found in this process, and you want it to be a heavy hitter,
You can take as much time as you want.
Hey, I think your last question is kind of, or last like thing we talked about is kind of inspiring me. So I would say, that my one truth, one of the many, but my one truth from this process is that you have to like believe in yourself that you can do it, and you, where am I going with this? You have to believe in yourself, and then you need to remember that you can always start again the next day. I think that's really the biggest things. Yeah, I'll leave it at
I like that. Self belief, and tomorrow's always a new day.
yeah.
It's a new opportunity for a fresh start if you want it to be. Yeah. I love it, Electra. I know I'm putting you on the spot a lot during this podcast. So the last thing, I'm just going to open up. If there's any other things you want to share, or anything you think people at home should hear, or any inspirational thoughts, or any tips, tricks, strategies that you feel like people should know, that want to take their fitness to the next level, or want to start like getting the ball rolling with living a healthier lifestyle.
I don't know that I have anything like inspirational to add, but I think if you're just like an average person and you just like want maybe more of like a purpose or more of a, I don't know, like a goal towards your fitness, whether like wherever you're at in your journey, even if you're just like you know things, but like you're not an expert, then I think that just having someone to be accountable to is something that you should pursue. And that, you know, you just like feel so much better having like a partner in the process, really. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. That's great, lecture. This has been great. Again, I know I asked you a lot of tough questions, but I really appreciate you coming on. I really enjoyed this chat, and I know a lot of people will at home listening. Guys, with that, I will wrap up this chat. As always, subscribe if you're on YouTube or whatever. I don't know if you subscribe on Spotify. I guess it's still a thing, or Apple Music. Okay, you can subscribe on there too. And make sure to check us out on Instagram at Truth Body Systems if you want some more practical, easy tips. And of course, we specialize in helping people get amazing results in a sustainable way while focusing on taking care of what's between the ears. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you know where to find us. And have an awesome day.